bad.
Hey, so here's a quick little review of a brand new anime movie called Goodbye, Don Glees. This is another anime movie distributed by GKIDS, who has been going around licensing a lot of anime movies and releasing them in theaters and on DVD and stuff. More so usually ones that aren't tied to franchises or anything like that. So ones that are like singular, very interesting sort of art pieces, basically. And this is one that I kind of didn't have too many expectations for. I didn't really even expect to want to talk about it on YouTube, but it really surprised me with its quality. I was pretty amazed. I know that the creator of this movie also made A Place Further Than the Universe, which I reviewed on this YouTube channel a while ago because that surprised me a lot too. And this movie is like just as quality as that show. I would say if I had to compare the two, the show is better, but also the show, it's hard to compare shows to movies because shows have more time. But anyway, I just felt like it was right to talk about this movie since I also talked about that series that he made. And because I loved this movie and I would like to share a bit about it. So I think it's still going to be in theaters like 2 more times within the next week, which I know doesn't really give a lot of time, and that's only in America too. Every other country would have different dates. But this is one I would definitely recommend you go see in the theater if you can, or if you already have and then you come home and you're looking for video reviews like everybody else does. Because I guess I can get into it a little later, but there's a lot of aspects of this movie that I was really surprised by how the quality of the theater setting really enhanced it. So this is my first time doing a review where I'm on camera and I don't have a script or anything, so I apologize if it's going to be a little sloppy, but I think it'll end up pretty fun. And if you like this format, leave the video a like and let me know in the comments, because that'll help me know that you want to see more like this, and that'll also just help other viewers find my channel and find my more obscure reviews like this, because, I know people are here for the big time Cartoon Network cartoon stuff, but I love this side of animation as well. Honestly, my favorite side of animation is anime, and specifically these lesser known animes and these lesser known anime movies, and being able to talk about them and share them is something I really love doing. And I hope that, they get as much attention as possible, because I want more people to see these, because I think a lot of people will like them. So anyways, the story is weirdly complicated. I feel like this happens a lot in anime movies. Anime movies like this, where it seems like it's just going to be a slice of life thing. They always try to juggle so many elements, and then by the end of the movies, forget a lot of the elements and just focus on whatever. Usually it's romance, but this movie's kind of not. So, I don't know anybody's names except for one character, so I apologize for that. The story is about 3 main characters who are all high school age and just starting high school, and the main character is kind of stuck in his crummy countryside hometown because he's too anxious to do anything with his life, too anxious to try to go to a bigger school or anything like that. He just sticks to staying home, and he's pretty much bullied by everybody because he's a smelly cow manure farm worker. His best friend from childhood ended up going to Tokyo for medical school and comes back for the summer to visit him. And somewhere along the way, it's kind of never even really explained how they met, but the main character also makes friends with another boy named Drop, who doesn't go to school and has a pretty excitable personality. The 3 of them hang out together and try to have their own fireworks show because they're not invited to the actual fireworks show because everyone in school hates them. They buy a drone to record the fireworks show, but the drone ends up losing control and flies away. So they go to chase after it and then lose it. And once they come back to their little camping spot, they realize that a wildfire started. And they're not sure if the fireworks they left behind started the fire or what. But they worry that they're going to be blamed for it. So with a tracking app, they realize that the drone flew away tons of miles, and they go on a little road trip together to go get it back to see if it captured any footage that will prove that they didn't start the wildfire. So yeah, weirdly complicated, right? But then it just kind of ends up more so being about the boys' relationships with each other and the main character's conflict of having so much anxiety and not wanting to change himself, or wanting to change himself but having too much anxiety to do it, and comparing himself too much to his more successful friend, sort of realizing that he's worried about nothing, and you're just supposed to take everything at your own pace. That sort of moral. And I don't know, it really hit me because I'm kind of feeling that way about myself right now. So I just thought it was a really great moral. I don't think it was told too well though, because this definitely falls into that anime's trope or cliche where there's a lot of moments, very just sudden moments where something will be happening and then one character, usually the drop character, they talk in the most like sophisticated, like metaphorical ways ever, making like some really detailed allegory that like is so obviously like reinforcing the moral of the movie, and it really felt unnatural in this movie. They do it a lot of times. There were a handful of really good lines. There was one part where they're like talking about the size of the universe. I can't remember the quote exactly, but there was a really good quote in there. But there's maybe like 5 or 6 times in the movie where like they halt all the plot progression for somebody to go off on a tangent about like how small the world is and stuff like that, and it's like it just feels really hammy. Like, you know, anime's always hammy, but when they do that sort of thing, especially as much as this movie did, it is definitely done like a little too much. So yeah, I guess, I mean, I'll just start with the faults of the movie. I guess it really only 2 things I didn't like was that aspect of it, of them being like way too hammy way too often, and the fact that again, the plot is like so weirdly complicated, but by the end of the movie they kind of forget like the whole thing about the wildfire, them trying to prove themselves. That totally falls to the wayside because it just becomes a road trip movie about the 3 boys' relationship rather than like the goal of their road trip. It's like even once the trip is complete, vague spoilers, I guess, once their little adventure ends, they never actually explain if, well, I guess they did. They did say like one little line where it was like, oh, okay, so they did all that. But it just seems weird that there was so much exposition to set up the conflict, and then that wasn't actually even the conflict. Like the conflict is the bullying and the anxiety that the characters face, not the big wildfire thing that was like really enforced as like you would think it's a major conflict because like that's kind of very serious in terms of like a conflict, but it kind of just doesn't really end up being about that, and I thought that was a little weird. But with that stuff aside, the rest of the movie is like really amazing. It totally surprised me. The animation is great, the backgrounds are gorgeous, but especially like I was saying before, like you'd want to see this in a theater because of the sound design. I was really surprised. There's a lot of it's a very nature focused movie, like they're going on a trip through the mountains, so there's tons of really nice waterfall sounds and like animal sounds, and like the scenery really comes to life with how freaking awesome the soundtrack is. And I mean that with both music, but especially sound effects. Like there's big moments where they're encountering big things and like your theater seat rumbles because of how brilliant the surround sound systems in theaters are. Like it was really, really cool. It's definitely one of my only times really noticing like really well done sound effects like that in an anime movie, I think. Like Belle was great because that was a musical, so like it felt very grand to be in a theater watching that. But this is a very different thing where it's like very aesthetic and scenic, and it just like ended up feeling so epic because of the way the sound was. Although, if you just watch it on DVD, it'll still be great too. But that's just my nerdiness there. Also, I guess in terms of sound, the English dub was really good. I guess one of the main guys is voiced by Nick Wolfhard, which I don't know him necessarily, but he's done a lot of stuff. Like my friend who came with me recognized him, and his performance was great. He plays the friend character who moved to Tokyo, and I loved him. He's like he sucks, like he's the one who drives the conflict. He's the one who's like, oh, we gotta grow up, we gotta stop doing this kid stuff, and like you always want to hate a character like that, but he's so funny because he's like just as anxious as the main guy. Like he's so concerned about his own image. He's always worried about what his family's gonna think about him like running away from home temporarily to do this quest and stuff. It's just the way he's animated was so fresh to me, because he totally has a character design and like facial animations and stuff that reminded me a lot of Fooly Cooly, or like just any like 2000s anime. Like he even kind of seems like a older Pokemon character design. I think the ways that he was drawn and animated were really, really funny, and the voice acting really added to it. Like it felt like a perfect performance for his character. I really loved him. And the other two are good too, but he was definitely a standout. The main character is pretty bland, all things considered, but like him being mixed with the other two sort of much more goofy characters makes him feel a little less bland because he has things to go off of. Drop was okay. He's the emotional hook of the movie. He's the one who talks the most about what I was saying, where he just like almost like every other sentence that comes out of his mouth is like a poetic thing. Like it's just a little weird, and I think his voice acting was a little off. But I do appreciate that, like, you know, he's like short. He comes off as that character. Like, if you think of like Fruits Basket, like he would be the really goofy, like overly cute one. But they really don't play him up like that. Like, he kind of has cutesy expressions, but he doesn't really act like other, like, I don't know what to say, like short boy characters in anime, I guess. You would expect him to be like the overly cute one, but he's more like silly and mischievous. Like, he's definitely much more interesting than that trope usually is. And definitely a lot less, like, annoying, too. Really, going into this movie, from the poster and stuff, I definitely expected it to be much more wholesome. And it's definitely really wholesome. Like, it's adorable. But, you know, it sneaks in some really emotional stuff in there, too, which you just should always expect from anime movies, I guess. But I really should have specifically expected that from this director, because A Place Further Than the Universe made me bawl my eyes out. And this, if I didn't go out and see this with my friends, I definitely would have been bawling my eyes out. Like, the sad thing doesn't come as a surprise, because they start with it in a way. Like, this does a really interesting thing that anime movies usually do. Actually, kind of similar to Your Name. The movie starts at the end, and it does it in such a good way where it's like, until you actually watch all of the movie, you don't understand much of the context there at the beginning. Like, you don't even realize that the characters looked different at the beginning. Because, like, once that scene at the beginning came up again at the end of the movie, I was like, oh, they had like that different thing on their design. I didn't even realize that because it was so early in the movie and I wasn't familiar. So I think they did a really good job with that sort of non-linear format, and that leads into a really amazing twist. And it's that twist that got me. Again, because they set up what's going to be sad, and it's the kind of thing that happens in anime a lot. So I don't know if that necessarily made me that sad, but what they do with it, like there being this sort of big reveal right towards the end of the movie, really, really surprised me. It got me, and it was like, you know, it's a twist where like logically you're like, huh, but also you're like sucked into the anime world and you're just like, oh, that's so great. That's such a good little sad story idea. I loved that. I almost didn't even want to talk about it here because I didn't want to spoil that there even was a twist, because I went in with zero expectations, and that like surprised me so much because my expectations weren't set at all. I just really love that like one-off stories like this can end up in theaters, and they're always usually good. I've actually kind of missed a few. I think there's like 3 that have come out this year that I haven't seen. I'm gonna have to check out when they're on Netflix and stuff, but I love getting the chance to see these because they are always really surprising. And I especially love, and I would encourage you to do it too, if you like know you like anime as much as I do, to just go see these. Like, if you see it, if it's in theaters and you're like, oh, I can like go see that today, just go see it. Don't even like look up a plot synopsis and stuff, because it's really exciting to check these movies out not knowing what you're going to get into. Like this one here, where I saw the poster and I was like, oh, okay, is it like a cute nostalgic road trip movie? And like, yeah, it is, but it also has like a really great emotional hook that I didn't expect. Same with Pompo the Cinephile, which I reviewed earlier. That movie really surprised me with how awesome the art style was, which I could tell from the posters, but then the things they do with the animation to tie it into like filmmaking, that was a great movie, and you should go check out my review for that too if you're interested in these more niche movies like I clearly am. I clearly am very into these. So yeah, sorry if this review is all over the place. This was kind of my first time ever, I think, just doing like a camera review without a script and stuff. And I know like a lot of the YouTubers I watch do this sort of thing, so I'm trying to get better at it. Maybe I'll get there. But I hope I could pique your interest about this movie. It's going to be in theaters for a few more days in America, and then it'll definitely end up on DVD and like, I don't know, some sort of streaming service, either Netflix or HBO. It seems like these go to HBO Max more often, and it might just go on Crunchyroll as well at some point. I think Crunchyroll owns A Place Further Than the Universe, so I guess it would make sense for this to just go on Crunchyroll. But anyways, if you're looking for a really fun, pretty unique, silly, nostalgic, and surprisingly emotional with a great twist anime movie, totally check this one out. Let me know if you saw it, and let me know any other like sad anime movies that you know about. I feel like I probably know about all of them. Have I seen all of them? I haven't seen this one yet. I've had this sitting on my shelf for a long time. I've not watched this yet. This is from the person who did Anohana, I think, so you know it's going to be sad. I think I'm just wary that it has a fantasy setting, and I don't usually get into that sort of thing. But it's a great sad one, apparently, so I'll get to it eventually. That's my anime show. That, when this movie comes on DVD, is going right there. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you like this style of video, and I'll do more like it. Thanks for watching.